Malaysia is a parliamentary democracy and a constitutional monarchy in which the king plays a largely ceremonial role, although he has a certain discretionary powers. The election process in Malaysia is based on the first past the post system, which means the party or coalitions that wins 112 seats is the number needed for a simple majority in the 222-seat lower house of parliament and will form a government. There are two main coalitions vying to form the government, which is the current ruling coalition and the opposition coalition. This dual coalition system reflects Malaysia's competitive and dynamic democracy. Specifically in Malaysia, a general election is called whenever the parliament is dissolved, which should happen every 5 years. Once parliament has been dissolved, the election commission must issue a notice with two important dates, which are nomination day and polling day. Precisely, there are several processes that are followed together that need to be emphasized in order to carry out the important date.
Assalamualaikum and hello, my name is Aina Shafat bin Zainal. My student ID is 20236A1276. Today I'm going to talk about the process of election in Malaysia. Firstly is dissolution of parliament. Article 55 of the Federal Constitution stipulates that only His Majesty the King can summon for parliament to be in session. His Majesty also has the absolute power to prorogue or dissolve the parliament. Announcement of election for the Dewan Rakyat take place when parliament is dissolved. When parliament is discontinued, this means that it is stopped from functioning. This can happen in two ways, which is the parliament is automatically dissolved after 5 years, Dewan Rakyat first meeting, or the Prime Minister can request that the Yang di-Pertuan Agong YDPA to discontinue the parliament, and then YDPA may decide to do so. But in most cases, the YDPA must act on the advice of the Prime Minister. The Constitution says that YDPA may refuse to consent to a request to dissolve a parliament before its 5-year term ends. In total, there will be 222 parliamentary seats up for grabs for GE50, as well as 42 state seats in Pahang, 50 state seats in Perlis, 59 state seats in Perak, and 1 state seat in Sabah. Typically, state and parliamentary elections are held at the same time in Malaysia. Kisah, for example, is the Malaysian Parliament was dissolved, initiated by Prime Minister Najib Razak, advice to the Yang di-Pertuan Agong. This early dissolution ahead of the Dewan Rakyat 5-year term triggered the GE14. The election commission was scheduled on 9 May 2018. The election resulted in a historic victory for the opposition coalition Pakatan Harapan led by Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, ending over 60 years of Barisan Nasional rule. This event exemplifies the dissolution process and its impact on a parliamentary composition. Secondly, the voter registration is Malaysia passed the constitutional amendment in July 2019 to lower the voting age from 21 to 18 years old and allows for automatic voter registration. All Malaysians eligible for voting above 18 years old, including Malaysians residing overseas, will be automatically registered as voters, said by the Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister Department, Datuk Mas Erniati Samsudin. This is based on the ruling by the Kuching High Court, which provide the deadline for the Election Commission to enforce automatic voter registration as well as lower the minimum age of voters to 18 years old from 21 currently. New voter will no longer be required to visit the Election Commission office or register at mobile booth. Automatic voter registration, which is AVR system, where voters' information automatically register upon turning 18 in the electoral roll 60 days after the following month of birth by default. New voters can check status online through the MySPR Semak portal, through the SPR mobile app, or by calling the SPR hotline. Identical card, my card number, and the CAPTCHA to check voting status. Voters will be able to find information about their locality, voting location, state legislative assembly. For example, in the 50th general election GE50, Malaysia implemented the Undi 18 amendment, allowing Malaysia aged 18 to 20 to vote for the first time. This led to over 1.4 million new voters being added through automatic voter registration, increasing total registered voters to 21.70 million from 14.94 million in GE14. The participation of younger voters influenced campaign strategy, prompting political parties to tailor their message for this demographic. This reform marked a significant milestone in Malaysian democracy, empowering youth to shape the nation's future.
I will talk about the nomination of candidate process in election. Firstly, the Election Commission will set up a nomination centres at any appropriate location such as the district office, town hall and community centre. To be a candidate, there must be a Malaysian citizen aged 21 years old and above. However, there are also a reason for the candidate to be disqualified if the EC discover that candidate either bankrupt, not sound mind, citizen of another country and have criminal record. Other than that, candidate must first deposit 10,000 ringgit Malaysia to contest at parliamentary seat and 5,000 ringgit Malaysia for a seat at state level. However, they will lose their deposit if they fail to get at least 1/8 of the total number of vote cast. Lastly, the nomination papers will be submitted to the returning officer for each constituency. The returning officer will declare shortly after who the candidate they trusting and fit to stand for the election. For example, During 15 Malaysia general election, Syed Saddiq, who is the leader of MUDA, contested as the candidate for MUA parliamentary. He secured his seat and have enough vote that made him able to retain his nomination deposit. Other than that, he also met all the criteria to be a candidate, such as he is a Malaysian citizen who are 30 years old, not bankrupt, mentally sound and have no criminal record.
Next is campaigning period. After the nominations of candidate was announced by the Election Commission, the official campaign period will start and will end before the polling day. It can be divided in three perspectives. First, the campaigning period usually lasts 14 days and the minimum is 11 days to win the hearts of the voters. The 2 weeks given should be outline each party's accomplishments, plan and policy if they rule. An example of the campaign period can be seen during the 15th general election in 2022. In GE15, the official campaign period began on November 5, 2022 after the nominations of candidates and lasts for 14 days, concluding on November 18, 2022. During this time, political parties and independent candidates campaign heavily to gain voter support. For example, Pakatan Harapan under Anwar Ibrahim emphasized economic reform, while Barisan Nasional focused on national unity and stability. Next, most of the candidates fund their own campaigns and seek financial support from their political parties compared to independent or smaller parties candidates that rely on donation from supporters. However, according to election laws, they must declare all the funds that have been used. Continue from the earlier example, during GE15, for funding sources, the Pakatan Harapan Coalition, a major party in GE15, funded its campaign through a mix of party funds and donation from supporters. Independent candidates such as Syed Saddiq in MUAR rely on crowdfunding via social media platforms to gather the necessary funds to run their campaign, and he stayed within the legal budget for his campaign in MUAR, making sure all expenses were properly declared. In spite of that, the most crucial thing is that all parties have to respect the law by avoiding sensitive topics that might evoke rage and create concern among the public, especially given Malaysia's multiracial population. During the campaign, all parties were careful to avoid sensitive topics that might inflame racial or religious tensions in Malaysia's diverse society. For instance, Barisan Nasional and Pakatan Harapan emphasized economic recovery and anti-corruption over divisive issues.
Polling day in Malaysia is the day that registered voters cast their ballot to select representatives in a general election and state election, which is governed by the Election Commission of Malaysia. It is a well-regulated process designed to ensure free and fair voting. In order to guarantee that all eligible voters have the chance to cast their ballots, polling day is usually declared as a public holiday. Before going to the polling station, the voters need to make sure they know where the polling station and polling stream through my SPRC mark to ensure smoother flow of voters. Once at the polling station, voters must present their identification card to verify their eligibility and also to specify the voters to their stream based on age. This is a very important step because the election officer need to ensure the voters are allowed to cast their ballots. After that, the index fingers of the voters will be marked with inedible ink to prevent double voting from happening, and the voters can proceed to mark their choice on the ballot paper. Also, usually there will be a mass return of overseas Malaysians to vote. The hashtag of Pulang Mengundi trended globally as people shared story of their determination to vote despite the challenge. The massive return of voters from overseas shows the growing political awareness and commitment of Malaysia to their democratic rights.
For the next point is vote and counting result. After voting ends, election official will count the vote manually at the polling station. Political parties may choose to nominate candidates for each seat, while independent candidates, parties that are not associated with any coalition, can also participate. This is because Malaysia has 2,032 parliamentary seats, and in a general election, political parties and independent candidates can nominate candidates for each seat. The election use a first-past-the-post system, where the candidate with the most votes are win. The system can lead to unequal representation and more political division. To improve democracy, adopting a more proportional system that could help include more perspective and encourage the unity. For example, in GE14, the Pakatan Harapan, which is PH, coalition led by Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, won the majority of the seat, despite receiving only 48% of the popular vote compared to Barisan Nasional, BN, which received only 43% of the votes. PH secured 130 seats, surpassing the 112 seat threshold that needed to form a government.
The last progress in the election process is the formation of government by the winning party or coalition. After the election result, the party with the majority of seats in the legislature, such as parliament, move forward with the next step to establish a government. If no party has a clear majority, coalition may be formed. The leader of the winning party or coalition is typically appointed as the prime minister that is responsible for governance, policy implementation, legislative engagement, and international representation. This formation is essential for political stability and effective governance post-election. For example, the YDPA appointed Anwar Ibrahim as Malaysia's 10th Prime Minister for marking the successful formation of a unity government. Anwar Ibrahim selected member of his cabinet focusing on economic recovery, anti-corruption efforts, and social justice, aligning with the diverse interests of the coalition.
In conclusion, the election process is important because it is to ensure the people have the freedom and right to choose their own ideal head of state to govern the country, and also it allows citizens to participate in selecting representative for both federal and state government. And lastly, Malaysia's electoral system provides a platform for diverse voices and fosters competition among political parties. This helps shape policies and leadership that reflect the country's multicultural societies and evolving needs. That's all from us. Thank you.